Hi everyone, it's Shel from Scrap Secrets and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is the June 2024 collab with Marie from Marie's Vermont Creations. So for this month, we gave each other parameters for card making, so you won't see the same theme or technique or supplies used in our videos. Her challenge to me was to use some Hero Arts products. So I went through my stash and found this background stamp, and I believe it's 5 3/4 by 5 3/4. I took a piece of Inktense XL watercolor cardstock and cut it to 6 by 6. Used my stamp wheel and inked up the stamp with some Lawn Fawn jet black ink. And then I couldn't find my pressure tool, so I'm using this bottle of glue to go ahead and put pressure down in all the areas. I did have to stamp it a couple times because it is a very large red rubber stamp. There's a lot of detail on it. It's on bumpy watercolor paper, so that just makes kind of the perfect storm for using a product like the stamp wheel or the Misty, because you will probably need to stamp it more than once to get a good solid image. So the other parameters that Marie gave me were to create a masculine card, anything but an A2, use Inktense watercolor pencils, and to use washi tape or ribbon. So I went through my supplies for Hero Arts, and I feel like so much of them are geared towards the feminine and the traditional feminine. So there was a lot of flowers and butterflies. There were some scenes, but the Heroscape ones, I had used most of them before, and I wanted to use something that I hadn't used. So I picked this background stamp because I originally thought I was going to use a Kindred Stamps set that has the characters from Peter Pan in it. I thought this could be like the treasure map and then have them flying over top of it. But I decided against that because I thought maybe that would be leaning a little bit towards the traditional feminine. So I decided to nix that and decided to do something a little bit different on the inside of the card. So for the Inktense watercolor pencils, I picked 4 shades of blue, and I just went and scribbled them down on a little bit of the cardstock or the watercolor paper, spritzed some water onto my mat, and then I went ahead with dipped the brush in the water and just pulled the colors out. Little later, I actually will put the colors closer together because I felt like that gives a little bit of a more seamless transition between the colors. What I was finding was when I did it the first way that I did, you could see that there's like a really dark blue next to a really light turquoise or tealy blue. So I didn't think that that looked right. If you've ever flown over a body of water or seen an aerial shot of the water, you'll know that it is a ton of different shades based on the depth of the ocean. So I wanted to represent that in this, and this is one of my favorite techniques, is to lay down a couple colors and then kind of mix them like that, instead of going straight in with one color and then maybe later on going back over top. I like to blend them this way. It reminds me of those books with the markers that you had that you would just color over top and the colors would appear. That just, for some reason, it just reminds me of that technique. So that's kind of what I always think of when I do this. So I'm going to be doing the same coloring technique throughout the whole entire map pretty much. So I will bring out 4 shades of green when I do the land. But I thought that for right now, I would talk to you guys a little bit about story time. I haven't done story time in a while. I haven't done a lot in a while. I have been traveling for work. I have a couple more trips coming up. So there's been a lot that's been going on. We just had 2 graduations in the family. Mila graduated from preschool, so she's going into kindergarten next year, which is crazy. So she's my youngest goddaughter. And then my oldest goddaughter graduated from high school, which was crazy. We had her graduation party. As of the time I'm recording of this, we had it last night, and I just can't believe she's going off to college. So it bookends with my goddaughters. My godson is already in college, who he is, I think I've told you guys before, he is dating my oldest goddaughter's best friend. So that's kind of crazy. So she also graduated from high school this week. And so that's it's funny that I've known my goddaughter's best friend since she was 5, and now my oldest godchild, my godson, is dating her. So we had there's been a lot of graduations. And then the same day, I also had Nora and Mila's dance recital, and they each did 3 dances. It was so cute. Unfortunately, they were not in the same show, so we had to go to 2 different shows, which just made it for a long day, and it made it rough. I actually had 2 graduation parties to go to and the 2 recitals. Unfortunately, I couldn't go to my friend's daughter's because the timing just wasn't right on there. Even though, unfortunately, it was directly across from my house and it would be super easy for me to get there, I just couldn't make it work within the time frame of the day. But they were really cute up on stage. Mila was shaking her hips like crazy in one of her dances, and she was making us laugh so much. And then Nora was so good in hers, and she got in on the hip action too. So they love dance. It's always so great to see them do something that they love so much. So I guess the other update are the cats. They're all good. I have been redoing my craft room, so the boys are really not allowed in there because I got 2 new chairs that I put together, and they are trying to scratch it up. And they've ruined chairs, with their claws, and they're just scratching on things, and I just can't. They have scratching posts and things all around the house, but they just seem to want to scratch on my furniture. So I'm trying to keep something in this house brand new or looking new. So we're working on redoing it, reorganizing it. So hopefully, I keep saying this every time I go to reorganize it, I hopefully will have some videos, but I really have been cleaning it up, which after I finish this voiceover, actually will be going downstairs into the craft room and working on it a little bit more. So because I really only have weekends and maybe some nights to do it, it really is taking a long time, but I am enjoying the process, and I'm also going to be going through my stamps again. I have a ton that I put on the side to sell, and I hopefully will have some more. So if you're interested in purchasing any stamps, let me know, because I will definitely be, putting them out in bundles or whatever. I'll figure it out. Okay, so back to the card. I kind of felt like this needed something around the edges. It was too clean, and I wanted it to be a little bit vintage. So I took some vintage photo, and I used the Distress Oxide instead of the Distress ink, and that was my mistake because it does leave a little bit of a film on it. It gives it a little bit of a chalky residue, but it's fine. It's fine for what it is. So you can see there, I was just using whatever was left over on my brush, and now I'm going in from the actual ink pad and going around the edges. I'm going to start to pull it in a little bit closer to the middle to kind of go over some of that colors to make it look aged as well. So it was something that I wasn't really sure about, and I was like, I just did all of that coloring. It took me so long to do. If I mess this up, or if I don't like the way it comes out, I was going to be so upset. So I cleaned off my work surface and then buffed a little bit of that extra off. And then I found this Concord and Ninth stamp set. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. Again, I thought I was going to do images on the outside, but then I thought there's this scroll, and that was from a Hero Arts nesting set. I think there's 5 of them in there. And I thought, how cute would that be to do kind of a scroll treasure map thing on the inside? So I picked the globe image from the Concord and Ninth stamp set, and I inked up the stand part of it with some MFT craft ink. And then I'm going to use this new to me Hero Arts contour ink. I got this in one of the last kits that I got. So again, now I've used 3 Hero Arts products: the background stamp, the die to cut out the scroll, and then this contour ink. So I used all 3 of those Hero Arts products. So that satisfies that requirement in my challenge. And I stamped it in the contour ink because I wanted it to be really light, but to be able to see the circle, I wanted to create a map on it, or the globe on here. And you can see that's a terribly rough sketch, and actually it's pretty bad, not shaped, of North and South America, but you're really not going to be able to see the shapes behind it. So I just wanted to add a little bit of green behind it in kind of like a blobby shape. So I used a couple colors of green, and then I'm going in with my water and my brush again to smooth it out. Now this paper is not watercolor cardstock, so you want to be very, very sparing with the water on it. you will see with the globe part, it kind of, the paper starts to kind of not pill up, but it just was starting to get a little warped and worn in areas. So I probably put a little bit too much water on it. I probably should have let the green part dry first. I do hit it with my heat gun because we are going to ink up a sentiment and place that over top of it. But I wanted to get as much color down. I wanted it to really look like a globe behind it with the sentiment on top of it. So here's where I go ahead and add the water in, and it was starting to just make the paper, I guess, warp or not, like I said, it's not pill. It just kind of decided that it didn't look as smooth as it would if you didn't use water on it. So if you're going to do this, I probably would recommend doing a watercolor cardstock and then taking a light color, like maybe antique linen, and using that on the background. But the problem with that is that if you do the whole entire thing, then you're going to activate the antique linen with the water as well. So I probably would stamp everything out first and then add some antique linen once it's all dry. So like I said, I went ahead and hid this with my heat gun off camera because it was just too hard to, I wanted it to dry first of all. And then before I put the sentiment on, and then also to flatten it out a little bit. I'm also taking that vintage photo and going around all the edges of the map. Like I said, you could do this with antique linen. So you could do antique linen all around and then do the vintage photo on top of it. Then I went ahead and took a small brush into those detailed areas because there's little lines, like little circular lines in the sides of the scroll. And then where it's indented more, it would have, where there's like little rips were, those would be darker. So I went in and added a little bit more. I did add a little bit too much ink to the bottom where there's like that little line in there, but I just tried to smooth it out. So now I'm taking a sentiment from the set and we're going to ink it up with that same Lawn Fawn jet black ink and stamp that down. I did stamp this down a couple of times because, again, we did watercolor over top of it and the paper was not even, like I said, because it warped a little bit. So I went ahead and stamped that down. And then, unfortunately, I did lose some of the footage when I go to glue some of this stuff down to the card front. My camera does not have a lot of memory left because I have so much on here. So I did use Barely Arts glue to attach the card front to the card base. It is a piece of scrap cardstock that I had left over from when my sister-in-law was here and we worked on a retirement project for a woman that she works with. So the original paper was 12 by 12. I cut it down to 6 by 12 to create a side folding card. And then I used my Barely Arts glue to attach that. And then I'm also going to do the same for the scroll on the inside. Unfortunately, I lost some of this footage, but you know what it's like to just glue things on. So the next thing that we're going to do is make the envelope. So I cut it down to size, and then what you're going to do is slide it into the, I think it's 3 3/4, and then punch a hole and then go ahead and score. Then you're going to put the score line lined up with that little edge on the left-hand side. And you're going to do the same thing. You're going to go around all 4 edges. And this punch board is really, really great. It tells you how to create all different size envelopes for whatever project you're working on. I actually did a huge envelope for my sister-in-law for that retirement project. So really nice when you want to make your own envelopes. So I'm going to go ahead and smooth out the edges and then use that Barely Arts glue again to go ahead and attach the flaps down. So now I put a little give there. I usually do that when I make the card the exact same size, or the envelope is exact same size as what's said on there for the card, but I will flatten it out later. This is where I remembered I needed to use ribbon or washi tape, and I didn't really have anything that went with this, but I found this caution one, and I figured that would be able to hold the envelope together nicely. So that is the card for the day. Thank you guys so much for watching this series. Hopefully I will leave Marie's information linked in the more information section so you can go over and check out her card. And I will see you guys again real soon for another video. Bye.